Did you know that, according to the World Health Organization, stress is now called the health epidemic of the 21st century, affecting over half the global population daily? Pause and think. How much is your life shaped by stress, anxiety, or things outside your control? What if there was an ancient toolkit, 2,000 years old, but tailor-made for handling modern chaos? This week, I put myself to the test, living like a Stoic for 7 days straight to see if these age-old principles can actually be a secret weapon against today's stress, negativity, and overwhelm. If you could have a mental shield, a kind of secret superpower to help you face life's constant storms, would you take it? For a growing number of people, that shield is called Stoicism. While it might sound like a dry philosophy from your high school textbooks, Stoicism was designed to be fiercely practical, a daily guide for life's toughest moments. From the bustling streets of ancient Athens and Rome to today's high-stakes boardrooms and unpredictable world events, Stoic principles have quietly empowered everyone, from emperors to everyday people, to find clarity, resilience, and even joy amid chaos. At its core, Stoicism asks a deceptively simple question: what truly lies within your control? The ancient Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, who was essentially the CEO of the Roman Empire, Seneca the Younger, and slave-turned-philosopher Epictetus, confronted war, exile, loss, betrayal, and societal collapse. Yet their writings pulse with calm, focus, compassion, and confidence, qualities many of us crave in today's noisy, high-pressure world. Why Stoicism, and why now? Because if you look around, modern life keeps presenting challenges our ancestors could barely imagine. Endless notifications, attention battles, uncertain futures, and a rapid-fire news cycle that never sleeps. Modern science now confirms what the Stoics intuited. Habits of mind can either trap us in anxiety or unlock practical calm and intentional living. This week, as an experiment, I've taken on the challenge to apply Stoic principles for 7 days, journaling nightly, using daily reflections, and seeing whether ancient wisdom still works. Along the way, I'll break down what Stoicism actually is and isn't, how you can start using its tools even if you've never read a single line of philosophy, and what happened to my mindset when I put it to the test. So, let's dive in. Can Stoicism really become the secret weapon you need for modern life? Let's cut through the noise. Modern life is stressful, at a level humanity's never seen before. We work longer hours, multitask non-stop, and sleep less. Our attention is hijacked by constant pings, updates, and alarms. The average adult checks their phone over 100 times a day. Information and tasks bombard us from every angle, yet satisfaction keeps dropping. Everywhere you turn, stressors seem inescapable. Consider these real-world pressures: work, job insecurity, burnout, the demand to always hustle, and blurred boundaries between work and home. Social media, comparison traps, FOMO, cyberbullying, and addictive dopamine spikes. Relationships, greater isolation, higher expectations, and pressure to constantly project happiness. The news, political polarization, climate fears, economic worry. We're glued to bad news cycles, most of which we truly can't influence. This storm of input turns our emotional lives into battlegrounds. Anxiety, chronic worry about everything from job performance to the next pandemic. Irritability, snapping at loved ones over small annoyances, fueled by constant underlying stress. Despair and loneliness, a connected world where real deep connections get rarer. Loss of focus, multitasking eliminates deep work, constant notifications fragment our attention and productivity. Restlessness, the fear of missing out, always wondering if we should be doing more, being more, achieving more. These issues are more than just in our heads. Doctors now warn that modern stress leads to anxiety disorders, depression, hypertension, autoimmune diseases, and even a shortened lifespan. People self-medicate with social media, streaming, food, or alcohol, which wind up deepening the spiral of dissatisfaction. But here's the paradox. We have more freedom and resources than any previous generation. We've conquered many diseases, global poverty is at historic lows, and travel or information is open to millions. Yet, happiness rates and mental health are stagnating, or worse, declining. What's going wrong? One answer, we've lost a sense of agency over our inner lives. The outside world is more demanding than ever, while our inner world feels increasingly untamed. When we can't distinguish what's in our control from what isn't, and when every disappointment or negative headline feels like a personal attack, we feel powerless. That's where many people try quick fixes. Maybe it's self-help trends, time management apps, or radical morning routines. While helpful in the short term, these usually tackle surface symptoms, not root causes. We're chasing control in all the wrong places: likes, shopping, even productivity itself. In this relentless environment, wouldn't it be powerful to find a mindset built for chaos, one that survived 2,000 years of war, plague, political turmoil, and personal suffering? That's what the Stoics built their entire system for, not for scholars, but for everyday people facing real adversity. The central Stoic question rings out: what is truly up to you? When we get this right, the world loses some of its power to wound us, and freedom, agency, even peace of mind become possible again. This is the challenge I set out to face head-on. Could Stoicism's clear-eyed realism and ancient calm help me navigate the tidal wave of stress, distraction, and negativity that defines modern life? Could it be a secret weapon anyone can access, no matter how busy or overwhelmed they feel? Stoicism is more than a buzzword. It's a toolkit, filled with exercises and strategies for meeting the world, not withdrawing from it. Over my week, these key Stoic principles stood out, both in study and in practice. 1. The dichotomy of control. At the heart of Stoicism sits one bedrock principle, brilliantly captured by Epictetus. Some things are up to us, others are not. Up to us are thoughts, intentions, efforts, values, and actions. Not up to us, the weather, the opinions of others, outcomes, politics, the past, or anyone else's reactions. Why does this matter? Because so much of our suffering comes from confusing the two. Obsessing over a friend's cold text, doom scrolling the news, or agonizing over a presentation's outcome. These are all forms of wasting our energy on things we can't actually steer. By sorting challenges through the Stoic filter, is this up to me? We free up enormous emotional resources. In practice, during my Stoic week, every time a negative emotion flared, frustration at traffic, anxiety about work, parents' opinions, I paused and examined, what can I actually influence here? If it was outside my control, I practiced letting it go, focusing on how I responded, not what happened. 2. Negative visualization. This surprising practice, called premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils, actually asks you to spend time imagining worst-case scenarios. Why? It builds resilience. If you've already rehearsed setbacks, you're less shaken when they come. It breeds gratitude by picturing losing something cherished, health, family, home. You value it more deeply now. Example: each morning I imagined something going wrong with my day, getting stuck in traffic, receiving bad news, tech failures. Instead of bracing for catastrophe, I felt oddly calm. Research backs this up. People who regularly visualize difficulty are less shocked when things go awry and bounce back faster. 3. Mindfulness and daily reflection. Stoics practiced a kind of daily journaling and mental rehearsal far before mindfulness became a hashtag. Morning meditation, previewing the day, anticipating challenges, asking themselves, how can I approach with wisdom? Evening review, looking back calmly at successes and failures, asking, where did I slip? How can I do better without beating myself up? I mirrored this with a morning coffee journaling session and an evening audit. On days where frustrations stacked up, the evening review let me regain perspective, catching unhelpful habits, but also celebrating small wins. 4. Amor Fati, loving fate. It's one thing to accept what happens, but Stoics go further. Amor Fati means loving your fate, whatever it brings. When difficulties arise, Stoics ask, how can I use this? Not in a naive way, but as a challenge and a prompt for growth. Seneca wrote, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor man perfected without trials. During the week, small crises, a canceled appointment, a negative comment, technical hiccups, were recast as training exercises. Could I treat them as gifts, not just annoyances? 5. Virtue above outcome. To Stoics, the only unavoidable goal is living in accordance with virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, and self-mastery. Outcomes, success, fame, money, come and go and are never fully in your hands, but nobody can rob you of the opportunity to act with integrity, patience, or compassion. I put this into action by refocusing from winning daily battles, inbox 0, perfect meetings, to how did I show up today? When the inevitable failures happened, they became feedback, not judgment. 6. The view from above and zooming out. Marcus Aurelius practiced visualizing himself from a wide perspective, seeing himself as just one human in a vast world, his problems shrinking in size compared to the big picture. This technique, often called the view from above, gives quick relief from everyday pettiness and helps us generate awe and humility. When I felt overwhelmed, I'd step outside for 5 minutes and look at the sky, literally zooming out. This simple trick short-circuits rumination and restores perspective. Real-world applications, dealing with difficult people. Instead of obsessing over someone's behavior, shift focus to your response. Acting firmly but with composure and kindness. Facing uncertainty. When waiting for results, a job application, medical news, remind yourself you control your preparation and mindset, not the final answer. Daily annoyances, traffic jams, rude strangers, lost keys, use each as training in patience and self-mastery. Over the week, the more I practiced these tools, the more they worked. I noticed less energy spent on things I used to rant about, and more energy for things that mattered, relationships, goals, even moments of rest. The ancient Stoics were right. Most suffering is not from events themselves, but from our responses to them. Ultimately, Stoicism isn't about numbing yourself or becoming indifferent. It's fiercely practical, a way to feel deeper but suffer less, to take action without becoming a slave to outcome, and to cultivate a quiet strength that endures. To truly see if Stoicism can be a secret weapon, abstract principles need real-life tests. Let me bring you into my own challenge, a Stoic experiment, and then spotlight how these ideas have empowered others, both ancient and modern, to overcome huge adversity. My personal Stoic challenge, Day 3, Crisis at Work, personal test of the Dichotomy of Control. Wednesday morning, my inbox explodes. An urgent client project ran into a huge snag overnight. Separation anxiety sets in, my reputation, my boss's expectations, even my self-worth, all seemingly on the line. My old reaction, panic, frantic emails, imagining worst-case scenarios. Applying Stoicism. For one moment, I breathed and asked, what is really in my control here? I realized I couldn't control the late delivery or my client's mood. I could control how I responded, clarity, professionalism, solutions. So I addressed the issue head-on, admitted what went wrong, and offered 3 concrete options to get us back on track. The client was still upset, but I stayed calm, no blame, no panic. The project was salvaged, but more importantly, I didn't spiral downward internally. Throughout the day, other fires cropped up. But instead of carrying anxiety from crisis to crisis, I kept returning to what's up to me, and noticed an odd clarity settling in. Day 5, social media comparison trap, practicing negative visualization and view from above. Scrolling through friends' vacation pictures and career wins sent a familiar jab. Am I falling behind? Instead of doom scrolling, I paused and rehearsed the Stoic view from above. I imagined looking at my city from overhead, realizing everyone here faces struggles I can't see, just as they can't see mine. I then practiced gratitude for what I have, health, friends, creative freedom, and did a quick negative visualization. What if these were gone tomorrow? How would I feel then? Instantly, petty envy became appreciation. Day 6, unexpected setback, Amor Fati in action. A close friend let me down at the last minute. My weekend plans, and honestly my feelings, were crushed. Initially, irritation crept in. Why does this always happen? What does this say about me or our friendship? That evening, I journaled. What if this is exactly how things are supposed to unfold? Instead of ruminating, I used the time alone for a walk, reflecting on my values and what I wanted from friendships. The setback didn't disappear, but it turned into a springboard for self-understanding, not just disappointment. Historical example. Marcus Aurelius under siege. One of the greatest stories of Stoicism is that of Marcus Aurelius. Imagine ruling an empire on the edge of collapse, barbarian invasions on the frontier, disease wiping out armies and families, including his own children, political betrayal everywhere. Despite this, his famous Meditations reads like a manifesto for calm and kindness. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Marcus wasn't emotionless. He writes about grief, fatigue, and anger, but he returned over and over to what he could control. His effort to face each day with wisdom, his unwillingness to let fate crush his spirit, and a loving acceptance of each challenge life threw at him. Modern example, James Stockdale in the Hanoi Hilton. Admiral James Stockdale, a United States Navy pilot, spent over 7 years as a prisoner of war in Vietnam, subjected repeatedly to torture and deprivation. How did he survive such inhuman adversity? By drawing on Epictetus and practicing Stoicism. Stockdale realized he couldn't control his captors, his pain, or whether rescue would come. But he controlled his inner posture, not relinquishing his values, integrity, or hope, even when day-to-day events were utterly beyond his influence. Later, Stockdale credited Stoicism with not just helping him endure, but emerging from this ordeal psychologically whole. This is evidence that what works for emperors also works under the grimmest circumstances. Modern everyday warriors, from athletes to CEOs. Athletes, Olympians and NFL players routinely practice visualizing adversity, using obstacles as training, and focusing on process over outcome. CEOs and leaders, Tim Ferriss, Ryan Holiday, and others credit Stoic journaling, embracing the obstacle, for decision-making under extreme uncertainty. Therapists, elements of cognitive behavioral therapy, now gold standard for anxiety and depression, are directly inspired by Stoicism's focus on challenging thoughts and focusing on controllable actions. Through my own week-long Stoic challenge, I discovered that Stoicism's true force as a secret weapon isn't shutting out emotion or hacking your brain. It's having a reliable inner script. Is this in my control? How would Seneca respond? Can I love my fate even when it hurts? What virtue can I practice right now? Even just a week in, my stress response softened. I wasted less time on spiraling thoughts. I found clearer joy in small moments. A meal, a laugh, even an obstacle, eventually, knowing I had a toolkit to process it all. If Stoicism can temper an emperor, free a prisoner, and help a regular person like me face tough days with more grace, imagine what it could do for you too. As the week ended, my Stoic experiment brought some unexpected results. I didn't become an unbreakable superhero, immune to stress or setbacks, but I did experience a kind of transformation. Fewer meltdowns over things I couldn't change, more attention on what I could actually influence, my routines, moods, and how I treat others. Sharper awareness of moments of happiness, made sweeter because I stopped taking them for granted. Let's recap the key Stoic tools that helped me shift from reactivity to resilience. 1. The Dichotomy of Control. When stress hit, asking, "Is this up to me?" was like a mental circuit breaker. If yes, I leaned into action. If not, I practiced letting go. This cut my worry time and let real problem-solving energy flow. 2. Negative visualization. Imagining what could go wrong and what good things might disappear didn't make me paranoid. Instead, it kept me grounded and grateful. Bad news was less shocking. Good news seemed less fleeting. 3. Mindfulness and reflection. Morning intention setting and evening journaling made my reactions more deliberate. Over time, I noticed emotional patterns and saw progress in my ability to catch myself before spirals began. 4. Amor Fati, loving fate. Not every day went well, but each failure became a prompt to ask, how can I use this? Setbacks were demoted from catastrophe to curriculum. 5. Virtue as success. Instead of chasing constant validation or outcomes, I steadied on the question, was I wise, just, and self-disciplined today? Often, that was enough to walk away from disappointment feeling proud. 6. Perspective. View from above. Zooming out, literally and mentally, rapidly shrank daily frustrations, helping me get unstuck from ego and envy. Problems became facts, not crises. Most importantly, Stoicism didn't flatten my feelings out or make me a robot. Instead, it turned down the noise so I could actually hear my priorities, and increased my moments of joy even in tiny, everyday wins. My patience grew, my anger became less automatic, and I found it easier to forgive myself and others. For anyone curious about Stoicism, my experience suggests this. You don't need to become an ancient sage to benefit. You can start with just one question. Is this in my control? One small shift, journaling, practicing gratitude, saying yes to difficulty. Over time, those habits quietly build a mental stronghold, one impervious to circumstance, criticism, or chaos. That's how Stoicism becomes a secret weapon, not by erasing hardship, but by making you the kind of person who meets life's greatest battles with courage, inner freedom, and peace. Ancient wisdom, ultra-modern power. Ready to try Stoicism for yourself? I challenge you, for just one day, catch yourself worrying or reacting and ask, is this up to me? And see what changes. Have you experimented with Stoic practices, or do you want to start? Tell your stories or questions in the comments. I'd love to hear how these ideas work in your real world. If you enjoyed watching me put philosophy to the test, let me know which other traditions, mental habits, or big questions you want covered next. Check out the playlist for deep dives into practical philosophy and mind mastery. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who could use a mental reset. Let's keep building a wiser, calmer community together.